Hi everyone. This is day 204 that we have been on board Royal Caribbean's Ultimate World Cruise. 204 days on a cruise ship in a 179 square foot cabin, and we are having a blast. We're fixing to roll into Dubrovnik, Croatia. This is the second time I've been in Dubrovnik, and it is such a cool medieval on the Adriatic, like crashing waves, super cool old town. It's just a really, really, really cool port. As you can tell, I'm excited to show it to you, so let's go check it out. Dubrovnik is a city in southern Dalmatia on the Adriatic, and it's so cool. As Wikipedia describes it, it's one of the most prominent tourist destinations in the Mediterranean. And when you think prominent and tourist destination, I'm not sure what you think, but let me tell you what it is it was people, tons and tons and tons and tons of people. It is a massive tourist destination. So note to self, plan it on a shoulder season, because the experience is radically different when you're swimming through droves of tourists. So let's jump right in before someone gets ahead of us in line. The port is about 2 miles from this old town and city center. So the gate is Pile, is the gate into Old Town. And that's about 2 miles. And so, as we've had in several of our ports, Royal Caribbean coordinated a bus, a shuttle service that took people back and forth. So we jumped on the bus and it took us into the city so that we could start exploring. If you're in Dubrovnik and you're coming in on a cruise ship and they don't have the bus service, I've put in the caption a bunch of information on how to get a taxi and how to get the city bus and which buses to get that'll take you to the same drop-off location. Just a side note, if you take the city bus, make sure you validate your bus ticket when you get on the bus. We started our day in Dubrovnik, heading further out from Old Town to go to the fort. The fort is cool for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of Game of Thrones filming that's done here in Dubrovnik, and the fort is one of those places. So it looks very familiar for different scenes in the Game of Thrones. And the views back into Old Town from the fort and of the Adriatic, it's definitely something not to be missed. It is a bit of a hike, steps, to get up to the fort. And if you go to the fort, paying for the ticket to the fort will also be your ticket to walk the Old Town Wall, which I'll tell you about later. St. Lawrence's Fortress is situated on a 37-meter high rock to the west of Old City. The symbol of Dubrovnik's survival and freedom, the fortress defended the city from the sea and covered the western Pile Gate. Above the entrance to the fortress is a famed inscription, okay, give me grace here on my pronunciation. Non bene pro toto liberatas venditor, aro. Freedom is not to be sold for all the world's gold. The first official record mentions the fortress in 1301, although it's believed that its construction began much earlier. So remember, hold on to your ticket here. You're going to need it later.
Look at this water. The water in Croatia is breathtaking. We made a quick stop along the water on our way to the old town.
This is the Pile Gate. You remember in season 2, episode 6 of the Game of Thrones, you'll remember the kill them all scene from King Joffrey going through this gate in that episode. It's when King Joffrey is under attack by an angry mob when he returns to the Red Keep. This 15th century gate is the main entrance to the old walled city of Dubrovnik. The name Pile is derived from the Greek word pilage, meaning gate. This is a good starting point for you to tour the old town, start the city wall walk around the top, and kind of is your beginning and end to the old town city. The gate is located on the western side of the walls. It leads directly to the Stratton Street and the main promenade of Dubrovnik. So in Old Town, you have all the traditional Old Town things, all the churches, people that still live in here. There's tons of shops and restaurants, of course, and touristy things, a ton of Game of Thrones stores.
I had to show you this restaurant. The terrace, you could sit up on the top, and the waiter had this basket. He would raise and lower the basket to get or return the items that he needed. And I just thought it was really cool. It was strategically located too, so when he lowered it down, it stopped right at the window for the guy to be able to accommodate him. I just thought it was really cool.
And then, of course, historic sites, the churches, the bell tower, the Jesuit steps, which I'll show you about, which will also look very familiar if you're a Game of Thrones fan. We, of course, have to stop for a quick traditional burek. A burek is a European delight that can be found all across Croatia and neighboring countries. Basically, it's flaky dough, kind of phyllo dough-ish, filled with typically vegetables or meat. This had a variety of cheeses in it. It's considered the most common Croatian street food. It's traditionally either salty, sweet, or savory, and it was delicious. So we, of course, have to walk the city wall. It's only about a mile. It goes all the way around the city, being able to see down into the city, being able to see out to the Adriatic. You have to do it. Remember, visiting the fort, the ticket includes the walking the city wall, because if you don't keep your ticket, walking the city wall is about €37. An incredible vantage point to not only see the incredible Adriatic Sea views, but the old town from the top down. It's about a 90-minute walk.
Did you go to the beach when you were here?
This rusted pasta maker just warmed my heart.
So we were there in June. It was hot. There are no facilities on the wall, obviously. So you want to make sure that you bring water. There was, in fact, a little bar at one point as you came around by the water. But if it's not open, you're not going to have water, and there aren't any bathrooms. So just be mindful of that if you walk the wall. You have to walk the wall. So walk the wall, bring your water, go to the bathroom before you go. So one of the things that I researched was going to the Booza bar. It's like nestled in the cliff, and it's just a local trendy, super cool, on the water. I so wanted to go to it, and it was closed. And looking online, it says it's permanently closed, but then doing some more research, I found that maybe they're just doing some work on it. So if you're in Dubrovnik, look up the Booza bar. I'll put it in the comments. It's another place you don't want to miss. Even if you just spend a half an hour and have a drink, it just looks so, so cool. I want to show you something, so bear with me here. So as I told you, we have 279 days on board. And so I wanted to show you this spreadsheet. A lot of people have asked, how did I keep track of everything? And I know this says everything about me, but I have an Excel spreadsheet, and this thing literally has 26 different columns, all of our excursions, the weather, where we're going to be, when we're going to be there, if it's walkable, if we can take an Uber, all of my research notes. And this thing has been a lifesaver. I know that was totally random, but I've had so many people ask, how do you possibly plan to travel for 9 months? And that spreadsheet has saved my life. I planned for 2 years before we left on the cruise at each port, all of that information, stored it all on the Excel spreadsheet. And then every day when we were coming into a new location, I could bring up all my notes. I knew exactly what we were doing, if we had an excursion, where we were going, what we wanted to see, just all of my notes. And yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. And if anyone's interested in that Excel spreadsheet, just put it in the comments and I'll send you a copy of it. So as I said, this is the second time I've been in Dubrovnik. I was here in 2019, and unfortunately Dubrovnik was our last stop on a 3-week Slovenia, Croatia, incredible experience. I went with 8 of my girlfriends, and it was a sad day in Dubrovnik because we had to leave to go home. So it was so nostalgic for us to come back here because I was like, oh, I saw that, I loved that, we got to go there. Just really fun to revisit places, especially when it's just on a different journey and a different time. I said, this is the 79th port stop we've had. It's our last stop in Croatia. We did Zadar, we did Split, and now we're in Dubrovnik. And if you have intentions of visiting Croatia, you definitely want to go back and watch those videos. Croatia is an absolutely extraordinary country, and going to these different places, I've been to 8 places now in Croatia, and they're all very unique, very different, very special in their own ways. So make sure you go back and watch those videos.
Do you remember I was going to tell you about the Jesuit stairs? So if you watched season 5, episode 10 of the Game of Thrones, you saw Cersei's walk of shame. That was done here on these steps in Dubrovnik.
Do you see the cable car running up the hill? That's the Dubrovnik cable car. And at the top of the hill, of course, you have the views, a different way to kind of see the views. If you're not up for walking the Old Town Wall, you might want to take the cable car up to get the view from there. And there's a panoramic, it's called Panorama Restaurant at the top. So you could take the cable car, have lunch, or get a snack or whatever at the top, and could be a great alternative. The Dubrovnik cable car experience from the top of Serd Hill was built back in 1969. On a clear day, you can see up to 37 miles from the top. For this reason, the neighboring Imperial Fortress was strategically built on this privileged spot back in the early 19th century. Round trip on the cable car is about 27 euros for an adult, and you can see where it's located when you come in on the city bus or on your shuttle bus from the cruise ship, and you can just grab the cable car and go up. The cable car ride is only about 5 minutes. It's really like 3.5, up and back down. So you don't need a lot of time. really it's going to be the amount of time that you spend there, and of course if you want to eat at the restaurant. If you don't want to take the cable car, you can actually hike Mount Surd and make your way up the same to see the same vantage point that the cable car would. So that's also an alternative if you want to get some exercise in. You want to be sure to not miss the Baroque style Roman Catholic Cathedral of Assumption. In 1673, the current church started construction over the spot where several prior churches had been. Don't miss the Sponza Palace. This is the 16th century palace built in 1516. The palace has served a variety of public functions, including as a customs office, a bonded warehouse, the mint, an armory, the treasury, a bank, and a school. It's now home to Dubrovnik State Archive, which holds documents dating back to the 12th century, the earliest of which from 1022. Also not to be missed is the 17th century Romanesque church dedicated to Saint Blas as head and protector of the city. As we're leaving Dubrovnik, I'm thinking that we're going to go under this bridge. This bridge is the Dr. Franjo Tuđman Bridge, named after the first president of Croatia. So I was filming thinking it would be cool that we're going to go underneath it, and we ended up pivoting and going back out the way that we came. But it did give a nice panoramic of the city on our way out. Our captain on the Serenade, we nicknamed his pivots the Stig pivot because he was Captain Stig. Anytime he could pivot around anything so that we could see it from every different vantage point on board, he would. And this is one of those moments. He pulled a Stig pivot to get us back out into the bay. I have several recommendations for restaurants in Dubrovnik, gelato, some shops, some different interesting things within Old Town, and they are tagged in the comments. So that's it. That's our visit of Dubrovnik, and wraps up our journey through Croatia. I love Croatia. I would go back to Croatia. Remember, there's about 1,200 islands in Croatia, so you could go to Croatia 1,000 times and, you know, not see all of it. So we'll be back. We love Croatia. And I wonder what you thought of Croatia. I wonder if you've seen the other videos of Zadar and Split, what you thought of the video today. If you've been to Croatia, just comments in general, put them down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I so appreciate you being part of this journey with me and letting me share all of these exciting stops. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You want to make sure you're notified of the next stop. Our next stop is into Montenegro. And if you haven't been to Montenegro, specifically if you haven't been on a cruise ship, sailing into Montenegro, it's cliff edges and it's a cove in the back. So you sail in and you pivot and go back out, and it is stunning. So the next video on Montenegro you do not want to miss. And until then, bye for now. It can be sweet, salty, savour. It can be sweet, salty, savory, a combination of all of them, or it's typically either salty, it's traditionally either salty, sweet,